Good afternoon, legends. Something a little bit different today. We've got our next episode of Jeff Ed, and we are in the kitchen. Not quite our Wednesday evening Master Jeff kitchen, but we've got a good opportunity to run through a topic today that I think might help us all a little bit on our journeys. So we're going to do some lunch meal prep. And I'm going to run you through a few things, give you a couple ideas, hopefully a couple of tools that you can all implement sort of one way or another at home, the start of a week to get you through a week. So I'll just give it a few minutes to see who's all going to join us today and start fielding some questions, and we can have a nice relaxed chat as we go along too. Let me know who's here. Say hi. Let's check in, guys. Nikki Eagleston's here. Hello. I don't think you've missed one of our Master Jeff sessions either. Good to see you. Coach Liz is in the house. Natasha Scott, nice to see you too. Larissa Liebenberg, very interested in this. Thanks. Hopefully it's useful. Tasty, easy, useful. That's what we're about, guys. Convenience, getting you to your goals, but making it as easy as possible as well. Nicole Spuler, hello. Michelle Gross is here. Janatana Ellis. Suzanne Jacobus. Hi guys. How's everybody's Tuesday going? We are at the end of June, can you believe it? And we're leading off into July. So it's a nice opportunity to put a few things in place for the month ahead. And hopefully this is one of them. Who's here? Jade Buerta. Andrew McTavish, that's a blast from the past, the name I haven't heard from since Maritzburg days. Nice to join us. Hello, I hope you are well. Liza, excited for some lunch ideas on the go. That's just what this is, some lunch ideas on the go. Something you can pop in the fridge, keep for a couple of days in advance, take on the road with you to the office. Now that we're heading back, it's maybe a good time to do that as we start sort of leaning back into the office environment. Plan, prep, get things done, and it makes your life a lot easier. Easy work lunches, exactly. Cara Jardine, hello. Adele van Beek is here. Alison Harrison, looking forward to some ideas, especially on the vegetarian side. So that's exactly what I've got. We're actually going to go through two different examples of a meal prep packed lunch today. And one of them is a tuna niswa salad, and the other is a soup. The cool thing is we're going to do both in mason jars, and I'm going to show you how useful they can be and how we're going to use them for portion control and for packing in advance for the week ahead. Adele van Veek loves tuna. Yes, Carmen Barkhuizen's here. All right, so got a nice little crowd in, so I think we can get started. Please send your questions through if there are things you want to talk about along the way. I'll try to pick up as many comments as I can. My Sue Jeff isn't here today, so everything's me for a change, and I'm working hard. So I'll be on the comments and running you through how I'll do everything. But pop them in there, and I'll get to as many of them as I can. All right. Jackie Blake, thanks for joining us. Michelle Gross, best place to buy mason jars. So it depends where you are. I got them from Mumbo's House of Plastic, which has such awesome stuff. But obviously, we're keeping our footprint light. So glass, way better than plastic, not just for the environment, but for food as well. So nice, neutral taste, going to last longer. Everything's better in there. What's cool is you can bang them in the fridge, pop them in the microwave, and they're going to last through all of it. So I got a couple of these. They're about 1 liter, I think. So they're 1 liter, nice, perfect size. Grab a couple of those. I think they're about 30 Rand. So super option. Keep them around. We actually stick everything in there. So our flours and our grains and everything. So my wife likes to make things look a bit pretty in the cupboards. So they're useful for that, but also super from a storage point of view. Obviously, if you're going to be jarring anything, you've got the lid that's going to help you with that. But in this instance, we won't need to replace that. So we're just using it for essentially our lunchbox. Okay. Yes, Coach Liz, Mumbo's, they do have all the sizes. We can get various sizes to match kind of whatever you're doing. Justin Kitchen, good to see you. College boy, in the house. I hope it's going to give you some ideas as well there, but all right. Can you yes. So what I'm going to show you is kind of the framework of this, and essentially you'll be able to substitute it however you like. So mix and match between different protein choices, different starches, different vegetables. As long as you kind of get your portions right, you can move it around to match your goals, and I'll talk you a little bit through about that. So let's maybe start with that. What I got were 2 of these console jars. Okay, I hope you're going to be able to see what I did on the side. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to run you through that. This will most probably wipe off the first time we wash it, but you can keep doing it. So layering these things is the beauty about it. You can visually see your portions, and maybe your goals will change and you can mix and match. You might have a heavy training day and all of a sudden you need a little bit more starch in there. You might be really trying to keep things nice and tight and you might drop it completely, but the theory behind it all is the same. Let me get it as close as possible. Okay, and I'm going to run you through that. Bottom layer is where our flavor goes. It's the smallest component. So our flavor, what I'm talking about there is a dressing really. So it's the fat components in the meal. You'll see the dressings that I'm going to put in the bottom. Might be some olive oil. It might be any of the liquid. Why we put it at the bottom as well is it doesn't make anything else soggy. You can stick this in the fridge for 4 or 5 days, and even if you've got some greens on top, they're not going to get affected by the oil, which might make it soggy and not taste so lekker. So at the bottom is all the flavor, and that's where we put the dressing and the sauces. Okay, next level up, protein. Okay, what's cool about this mason jar, and to remind everyone of some useful portion control, is palm of your hand for protein. Okay, how cool is that? Does it for you. So you've got a nice portion control for your protein, and that same sort of thickness at that layer is about your palm size. So that's how I've drawn that. You can get your own out, get your hand next to it and kind of measure it out, and you can say, cool. Draw a little line and you'll know your protein. So if you're using tuna, if you're using beans, if you're using chicken, whatever the case is, it's there. You can just bang it in and it's sort of ready to go. All right. The next layer up is starch. For my goals, my starch and protein is about the same size. So it's just a balanced plate. If you don't have any sort of specific goals that you're training super hard and you need to get extra fuel in, or you're really trying to get the weight down and you might make that a little bit smaller, the starting point of keeping it about the same layer as your protein is super useful. And that same sort of size means it's a pretty balanced plate. Increase it if you need to, drop it if you need to, and you can sort of play around with that a little bit. And then our top layer, our big one, so my camera skills aren't so good, this one up here, is the veg. So that's where we're going to throw in all the greens if you're doing a salad, whatever the case is. The biggest component of that plate is our veg. It can be cooked, it can be obviously salad based and raw, whatever, but we're keeping it away from all the liquid at the bottom. And if you're making a salad, what's cool, you give it a shake, everything's in there, boom, out on a plate, and you're sort of ready to go. So the first one I'm going to run through here is going to be building a lovely little salad. The second one, I'm going to show you how we're going to use this for a soup. We had a lot of questions about soups as well. So a nice way to get your portion control right with a soup and have something that you can pop in the microwave for a couple of minutes and it's ready to go. Okay, so we catch up on a couple of questions if there's anything that's coming. Take a Lot also sells jars. You can find them in a lot of places. I mean, you'll pop into Checkers and you'll be able to get, some console jars and mason jars. Just make sure it's got a nice tight fitting lid to keep the air out, and it'll help it last 4 or 5 days in the fridge. Otherwise, it won't last as long. All right, Kelly's loving some inspiration for her lunches. Fantastic. Kim Ketley, hello. Coach Liz loves how this is suiting her OCD. You must see the system she puts in place for us as coaches, so I'm glad I can return the favor with something. Yeah. All right, Nikki, you have small hands. Small hands, small portions. Super useful. Your hand is kind of going to be matched to your body size, and that's why it's such a useful portion guide. Bigger guys, bigger hands, bigger intake. Smaller folks, smaller hands, and we need a little bit less. So it's quite mobile, it's quite useful, it's always on you, so it's a nice way to just plug it in and keep your portion control in check. Okay, Leanne all the way from the UK. Cool. All right, so guys, in this shot, you're going to see all the things that are going into our tuna niswa salad. And I'm going to start it off with a super simple dressing. We're obviously going to use it here, but what's nice about it, you can bang it in the fridge and keep it for a couple of weeks. And a nice way to not buy a store-bought dressing that's full of rubbish. And it just makes essentially the dressing go a little bit longer without it just being heavy and fat from whatever oil you might use. Okay, so I'm going to move it over there and show you what it all looks like. That's really simple. We've got some good quality olive oil. We've got some red wine vinegar, a teaspoon of mustard, and 1 crushed garlic clove. And that, I've got another little jar. It's all just going to go in there, and we're going to make a super quick dressing. So olive oil's in about a 1/4 cup of each. Mustard and garlic. That's all going to go in there. I'm going to put in a little squeeze of honey, just to balance the sweetness a little bit. It's not going to add anything crazy in terms of calories. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Okay. Fork, and we're just going to mix it. Super simple, super delicious, and that's something that can go onto any of your salads for the week. You can use it nicely to dress some veg. For us, in this instance, it's going to be obviously that bottom layer of dressing or flavor that we put in our mason jar. Okay, so mason jar, just going to pop it open, and the bottom layer, just to that first line. Super. That's my dressing. Okay, so all the flavor's gone in there. And the next reason we put the sort of the hardier things and the protein at the bottom is to soak up some of that flavor. So tuna straight out of the tin, there's not much flavor going on there. So as it sits in some of the juices, it's going to pick up that flavor, which is a great way to season it. You've got your chicken breasts or whatever it is, that's going to soak it all up and keep it away from some of the greens. So I'm going to put it under the camera for you. Next thing that goes in, protein. We'll be hoping everything's going to line up nicely. So, looking good. We're on track. Okay, I've got some lovely sweet potato. So you can use any grain you want when you're obviously building your salad here. We had some leftover sweet potato in the bowl, so I just roasted off a whole lot last night. If you've got 3 or 4 mason jars, you can just pop that sweet potato in each. Whatever other grain you might want to add to your salad if you need the carbs. You can use some legumes. You can obviously do some rice or pasta or quinoa or bulgur wheat or anything that'll go in there. Obviously in the niswa salad we've got potatoes, but we're doing the sweet potato version here. So those are going to go in. I just want to make sure I get my portions right. Okay, so visually it's going to be about the same as the protein. Okay, we're looking good. Flavor, protein, starch. And then, you know what? Niswa salad needs a little boiled egg. So I actually boiled one a little earlier. And what I did is, this I wanted to put some green beans in. So while I was boiling the eggs, just steamed off the green beans at the same time. So I've just got a little bit extra in there. So just trying to get a few things done so that it's ready to go. And we've got one egg. I missed my protein layer, but that'll go in there with it. Because you can't have any sort of salad without an egg. Okay, so just gonna peel him off. Okay, and then after that, we're gonna start loading up all the veg. All right, Nikki, yeah, quinoa would be perfect as well. So if you want whatever that starch is going to be in your salad, stick that in there. Okay, so just going to use half an egg. That joins our protein. The green beans, everyone kind of sits on a different side in terms of green beans. So I just steamed off a couple of those while an egg was boiling, so they're all cooked at the same time. Still got a bit of crunch to them. And all we're going to do is start building our veg layer. So in my salad, I'm going to have some green beans, I'm going to have some olives, going to have some tomatoes, going to have a little bit of dill for added flavor, and then chuck the greens in on top. So we're going to layer all of that. Bring it back here. The hardier veg to the bottom. So green beans go in, tomatoes go in, olives, if you want to pit them, those can go in. Pop 2 of those. Our dill and my rocket, which is looking a little bit sad. It's been in the fridge for a few days. And okay, so let me show you under this camera what it looks like. So we've got our flavor at the bottom, we've got our protein, we've got our starch, and laid it up with all of our veg, and it looks pretty quick and simple. That's all it is. We've got our first mason jar. You've got a salad to go. You've got your own portions kind of down the side. You can wash it up, reuse it, and bang out 4 or 5 of these if you're happy to eat the same thing for a couple of days, and it's ready to go. Stick that in the fridge. It will last for sort of those 4 or 5 days. And then before serving, you just give it a little shake around, and out it goes onto the plate, and everything's dressed, and it's ready. Super simple. How easy was that, guys? Flavor, everything's in there, protein, fiber, fat, fantastic. So it's a nice, super simple meal, and that's going to get you kind of started. How does that sound? Some ideas? Give you something to work on for some veg, for some salads. Is quinoa a protein or a starch? On your nutrition info, it's under protein, so it's under both. On our plans, the one-on-one program, you'll see that we can use it both. So if we're doing a vegetable-based dish, we might use quinoa as part of our protein that we're putting in there. And if we're doing an animal-based sort of protein dish, you can use it as your starch. So it's just a starch that has more protein than others, which is why we can kind of use it a bit interchangeably. And it's got a nice quality protein in it. So that's why on the one-on-one plans, you can use it either way, and then just the portion that's sort of applicable to you. Larissa wants to know about cheese. Would that go soggy? So there's some things that might go soggy. I'd put them at the top. So cheese, like a feta or something would be fine, you know, like a harder cheese that handle it quite well. Your cottage cheese, if you're using that, it's not the end of the world because you're going to pick up some flavor from it, so that's, you know, that's okay. Your softer cheeses, you might just, you know, keep those for something to eat in 2 or 3 days as opposed to 4 or 5 days. There are a few things that I'd maybe keep separate. So if you're adding some texture from maybe some croutons or some nuts or seeds, if you're using those types of things, stick them in a little, you know, separate container on top so you can empty it out when you're ready to go. You know, something like that might just soak up some moisture from the air and won't be as nice. Or if you're going to eat it just the next day, it's going to be okay. But for further down the week, you might just want to keep that sort of thing separate. Okay. Julie wanted to know the measurements for the salad dressing. So I had equal parts oil and vinegar, so 1/4 cup of each, and then a teaspoon of mustard and 1 garlic clove that was nice and finely minced, a little bit of salt and pepper, and that was it. Super simple. Okay. You can use, instead of vinegar, you can also use some lemon juice. Essentially, you've got a fat and an acid, so either vinegar or lemon juice, or a little combination if you want the flavor. Pop in some herbs into that if you want. You can flavor it up quite nicely with a variety of fresh or dried herbs, and that'll be quite a nice way. Some chili, if you want a little bit of spice, you can kind of go wild with it. You've got the base. I obviously used mustard to flavor this one, but you can, vary that up a little bit. All right, let's catch up on some questions. I think that's some of them. Quinoa came up a few times. Cool. Do you need to sterilize the jars? No. So unless you sort of looking at preserving something, you might sterilize them, but otherwise just quick wash. You're going to use it like a lunchbox. So there's no need to, just make sure you give it a good wash after it's back from the shop, and obviously in between each use. But that's all you'll need to worry about. All right. Cool. That was super simple, guys, and we've got one of them. Kim want to know about chickpeas. Yeah. So let me run you through the next one, which I'm showing you how to do this with a soup now. Exactly the same portions, but it's one of the areas sometimes we get a little bit lost. We're going into winter now. It's colder. We want something warm. So how do we kind of make it work for a soup? And I've got some beans in that. So quick, just clean the area. Okay, and this one's going to be super delicious. You see what I did there? Super delicious. I think my mom might be watching. She's going to be very proud of that one. Right, Velda, yes, it was 1 tin of tuna. So for me, my sort of portion when we're looking at palm size and palm thickness is a tin of tuna. There's a little egg in there just to bump it up as well. So that was my portion. That's about right. I mean, it's typically sort of what we're looking at. Okay, so jar number 2, exactly the same lines. At the bottom, I do the one for the flavor, then the protein, then the starch, and then the veg. Exactly the same, and we're going to do that into a soup. Okay, and this one's a nice vegetarian soup. Obviously, again, you can mix and match your proteins and your starches and flavors and everything. But if you've got the framework there and your portions are right, and you're going to win half the battle just from doing that. Okay, so let's just move to here and bring our new ingredients into shot. Okay, we're going to do a lovely minestrone soup that's a little bit higher in protein than average. And it's going to be nice and easy. Okay, so I think you can see most of that stuff. Right, in our minestrone soup, at the bottom for our flavor, we're going to have sorry, we lost the video there. The tomato, bit of tomato paste. Okay. Some olive oil, that's the flavor and the fat that goes in the bottom. And half a stock cube. So we're going to put those guys into the bottom of our jar. Okay, so in the bottom is the flavor, tomato. So minestrone is a nice tomato base. There's no fat elsewhere, so we're getting it from our olive oil. And then half a stock cube. So it's a vegetable stock cube. And all of the flavors in the bottom. Okay, we're going to use a little bit of oregano as well. You can use Italian spice, anything like that. Okay, so flavor one is sorted. For this, I'm using some red kidney beans for the protein portion. Are you guys getting feedback? Just let me know if the sound's a bit odd. Okay. Okay, so protein. So you can see my beans have taken the protein portion up. And then I want to tell you about this pasta, which you get all sorts of things like these now. Lentil pasta, chickpea pasta, all sorts of legumes and pulses that they're putting into it, which is fantastic. It is gluten-free if you've got any gluten issues, but my reason for doing this is that the protein content is over double what you'll get in normal pasta. So just a nice way to get a bit more balance into a dish like this. You get about 25 grams of pasta of protein, so where you get maybe 10 or 11 out of just normal wheat-based ones. So great way to get a bit more nutrition into a meal. Okay, so this is just dried, and it's going to cook later when we stick it into the microwave. Okay, so that's just going to go into the jar. And some might go onto the floor. That's cool. All right. So we've got those two layers, and then we start layering the veg. So you can see it there. We've got the tomato sauce, and we've got the beans, and then we've got the lentil pasta. Over here, last night when we were making supper, I just fried off a little extra garlic, carrots, and some celery, essentially the base of what your soup is. But if you do a little whack of that, put them into a few mason jars, or you can use them as a base for anything through the week, some soups, some stews, anything like that. Okay. Let me catch up. There are a couple of questions coming, so just before I move on. How much tomato puree? I used 2 tablespoons just to fill that flavor layer at the bottom. Olive oil was 1 thumb size. So we're back on the hand models. Our fats, 1 to 2 thumbs depending on your goals. So it was about a tablespoon of that. Viv, where did I get the pasta from? I got it from Rosemead Spa. So they had all sorts of different beans and lentils, and I was actually looking for chickpea, but they didn't have chickpea. But the lentil one looked pretty cool and was red, and this was a red dish, so that's why I went for that. That's the same question. I know Woolies also do a chickpea pasta. Tamara, hello. Pasta alternative, obviously if you don't want the starch in your soup, you don't need to have it, which is perfectly fine. Otherwise you can double up your portion of legumes. So you can use red kidney beans, you can add another bean into there if you want to, and then you get a little bit of extra starch and protein from that. Another way to maybe do it. Or any other grain. Again, guys, it's a soup, so you can whip it up with some quinoa, some rice, and any of those will go quite nicely in there as well. Velvet wheat. And you can use normal pasta as well. All right, cool. So we're there. Then our carrot mix is going to go in to start layering our so that's just for a little flavor. And at the very top, some baby spinach. So we always finish with the greens at the top, and you've got a nice base for your soup. That is pretty much ready to go. It's quite pretty. So at the bottom, flavor, Then our protein, we've got the beans, we used red kidney beans. Then we've got the lentil pasta. Then we started layering the veg, which was the cooked carrots and garlic and onion and all the goodness, and a little bit of green veg. So that would actually go into the fridge now. It'll last again 3 or 4 days. And all you're going to do is, when you want to have it, fill it with water, stick it in the microwave for 6 minutes with the lid off. I don't think that little handle being in the microwave. Stick it in the microwave for 6 minutes, give it a good stir, ready to go. That's going to cook the pasta in there while it goes, and it's going to reheat everything else, form a lovely, delicious soup. How easy was that, guys? Boom. All right. So if I had 6 minutes, I'd maybe do one, but we're coming almost to the end. So I'm just going to show you our goodness that we've got there. So remember, over here was our salad, over here was our soup. Get a couple of these, work out maybe what your portions need to look like, draw a couple labels up the side, and you can stick with it every time. You know, at the bottom, I need to stick my flavor in there. Next layer is going to be protein, you mix and match. Next one's starch, if you need it. If you're trying to keep it down, you can forego that. Your veg portion just might get a little bit bigger, and then all the veg gets laid up to the top, and the stuff you want to keep away from the liquid goes at the very top. So essentially your greens, they'll finish it off, and stick it in the fridge for 3 or 4 days, and you've got your week's lunches all sorted. Super simple. Plan, prep, get things done, and the rest of the week just becomes so much easier. Okay, so just before we say goodbye, I'm going to catch up. Last few questions. Let me know if there's anything there that you want some clarity on, or if you want to see another Jeff Ed, what else might, from a nutrition point of view anyway, what else you might want to do. Kidney beans, are they tinned? Yeah, they're tinned. So if you're going to get uncooked ones, dried beans, just cook them beforehand. 6 minutes in the microwave won't be enough for that. All right. Yes, Kim, tinned. Are all the vegetables cooked? Just the hard ones. So carrots, onion, I just cook those off a little bit in advance. Essentially in the soup, I want them to cook away once they get reheated. So they are pre-cooked. They're just essentially leftovers from last night. Petrus, we'll definitely have a look later. Cool. Guys, they're all saved, all of these different cook episodes we do, so you'll be able to get back to them. They'll all be labeled at the top. How big is the jar? It's a liter, 32 ounce, so 960 mils, or something like that. But yeah, it's about a liter. You can get the slightly smaller ones if you want to keep your portion a little bit smaller. Your ratios will always be consistent, but this size works quite well for what we're doing here. Larissa, so educational. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. How long do you put the soups in the microwave? 6 minutes. Should be enough. It just needs to heat up, but obviously because we've got the dried pasta in there, it's going to cook that through, and that'll finish that up. Jackie, thanks for joining us. Can we do a session on healthy treats? Perfect. Snacks, in-betweeners. Let's do that next time. Healthy snacks, another one. Healthy pizza. We'll do a Friday night. I've actually got a decent recipe for a pizza base. That's super. Maybe we'll do that once. Chris, pleasure. Last couple of questions. Breakfast options, that's on our cards as well. If you haven't yet, guys, join us for the breakfast run on the 18th. Sign up, register there. We're going to spend 67 minutes on the road. It's Mandela Day. Also doing some good, so you can donate 50 Rand to Jam, and we're going to feed a child. Nice challenge going on. We've got a few people feeding 10 children, so some good donations coming in. And after Jono's whipped you around the block for 67 minutes, we're going to get into the kitchen for a breakfast. So join us on Saturday, the 18th. All right, cool. Guys, it's been awesome. I hope you learned something. Planning, prepping, portion control, lots of P's. That's how you're going to win the game. Make sure you get it done, and life's going to be a lot easier. We'll be doing more of these, so we've got some cool ideas from you. And we're also obviously going to be back in the kitchen tomorrow evening for Jeff cook, where we're doing a beautiful skirt steak. I actually think my delivery is at the front door at the moment. Some lovely grass-fed skirts. If you couldn't find that, any beef will do, or any steak will do. And we're going to be doing that tomorrow night at 6:30. So I will see you guys all then.